This article is from AP News on the 20th of May 2022 by Sean Murphy. I've got to mute myself. Johnny Angel's not here to do it. It tells us that Oklahoma lawmakers on Thursday approved a bill prohibiting all abortions with few exceptions, and providers said they would stop performing the procedure as soon as the governor signs it in the latest example of the GOP's national push to restrict access to what has been a constitutional right for nearly half a century. People are going to have sex, and some of those people are going to get pregnant, and some of those people are going to want or need abortions. So I'm going to open this up with a question. This bill is about banning all abortions with few exceptions. And our article points out that there may be difficulty in accessing doctors for these exceptions. We'll call these the need abortion people. And this is pretty straightforward. If you ban abortions, where are the abortionists going to work? And I'm going to throw that question to our very own discount Frodo Baggins secular Rarity.
Yeah. I when I saw this is so reminiscent of what's happened in my state in Tennessee. We're very much, politically speaking, this state is very much in line with exactly the way that the Oklahoma politicians, feel about. I don't want to be too crass, but just about women and non-white guys. And they don't have very high opinions, I'll be honest. While there are some exceptions, and you mentioned this, Richard, there are some for, the most critical of spaces, and that is good, and I value that, but I just think it's a ploy. And the reason that I think it's a ploy is because they are still so heavily criminalizing every other aspect of it that the abortion clinics are going to shut down. They're just going to leave, and you're not going to be able to receive any of these services in these life-threatening situations. Now I don't have any medical training, which is good that there is one of the wonderful people here, Miss McDonald. You know a little bit about medicine. Why is it so important to have access to these things outside of these emergency, moments where the life of the mother is at risk?
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, I think that what a lot of these abortion bans do not keep in mind is not only the physical endangerment that potential mothers or people with uteruses will have if abortion is banned, but they also don't really keep in mind the emotional and mental issues that could transpire if this particular ban goes into effect, which more than likely it is. Um, we talked about in previous shows that abortion banning is part of the whole Operation Blitz that, Christian nationalist GOP, right wing conservatism, elected officials and the people who support them are, pushing in the lower state areas and in municipalities where it's a little bit easier for them to control the whole narrative when it comes to laws. Now, with that being said, and also knowing that earlier this year we've heard about the leaked decision from the SCOTUS concerning the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It kind of just like is taking this whole ban and just putting it on roller skates. And I don't necessarily think that I know that legislators are not looking at anything scientific when it comes to doing these legislative bills. They're not. This is completely things that they're arbitrarily coming up with in order for them to actually push their narrative. And what's even scarier is that you have other people on board with this who think that, oh, abortion is evil, it's wrong, it's against God, etc., etc. Therefore, it should be something that's banned, or you're getting rid of babies. But I like the way that Dr. Abby Hafer put it when we did the whole show on about Roe v. Wade some time ago, when she said that when you are conceiving at what this, because this particular ban says that conception happens, they consider life at conception, not at birth, right? So at conception, you don't have life, you have a brand new piece of DNA. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, as time goes on, you're going to get additional molecules that happen to transpire, and then you're going to get a multicellular molecule, like when we're at the embryo stage until we get to the fetal stage. You can't murder a molecule. I like to say that again for the people in the back so they can hear me. You cannot murder a molecule. And this is exactly what this particular ban is saying that, we're trying to prevent. But, like you have to also think about not just like, well, the mother's life is in danger because of ectopic pregnancies. That's when, like, the pregnancy is happening outside of the uterus, is going into the fallopian tube. Or if you're thinking about, like, something is going on specifically with the fetus in the womb, in order for them to not develop correctly, and then sometimes, and the mother's life could also be in danger in order so that you will have to cease from it happening. But with this ban, you're going to have less people being able to do the abortions. So more people will die because the people who are able to do abortions are not available. Even according to the AP article, 2 of Oklahoma's 4 abortion clinics stopped providing abortions after the governor signed the 6-week ban earlier. And an attorney from the 2 other independent clinics said that they will no longer offer services once this bill is signed. So you have the specialists already in these particular clinics that maybe other doctors will be able to glean from, but they're not even going to be there. So I don't understand where Oklahoma is like getting their particular ideas from, as far as like, oh, we'll keep an exception for mothers' lives or people with uteruses' lives, but they're not. Because, like, with this ban, the people who are going to be able to perform life-saving surgeries are not going to be there. So essentially, when you're banning the abortion, you're banning the potential mother's life from continuing to go forward. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think this is a win, not if situation. This is a win the first person dies due to unsafe abortions and these other terrible complications that can happen. And shame on all the politicians in every state that has sentenced half of our population to that, basically. Scott, what do you think? Are we seeing this wrong? Is there an angle we're missing on this?
Well, I mean, I think to me, it seems really clear what's really happening. I mean, even if you just limit what we're looking at to Oklahoma, they've had multiple laws go into effect and on the table recently. And in April, they had the governor signed a bill that makes it a felony to perform an abortion. But that one has a technicality. It doesn't take effect until August 2022. And that one targets the abortion providers, which we've seen are already kind of vacating Oklahoma. And so, so that would give them incentive to shut down operations. And I don't know, it seems like the delay, they said it wasn't going to take effect until August. I think they're kind of dragging their feet on that one, knowing that it would probably face some kind of challenge at federal court. But if they can wait until SCOTUS has an opportunity to make some kind of ruling on Roe v. Wade, then, then that's a different scenario. And so it seems to me that they got their bullet in the chamber and they're just waiting, waiting to pull the trigger on that one. That was in April. Then in early May, the governor signed a bill that we mentioned it already, the 6-week ban, right? So anything beyond 6 weeks, which, if we're being realistic, is almost all pregnancies. It's you almost never would find out before the 6-week time if you were pregnant, and by then it's too late.
Right.
And so that one took effect immediately on signing. The only exception on that one, there was no exception for rape and incest on that 6-week ban. That was only in the case to save the mother.
Right.
But that one allowed citizens to sue the doctor or the clinic or even other people that helped to facilitate those. So it's like they're coming at it from all angles. And of course, we have the one that the one that they just that was just approved by the legislation, right? That's the new one that'll just ban all even before the 6-week cutoff. Yeah. And they did mention exceptions in the case of rape or incest, but only if it's reported to the police. And that, that I don't know. It's just, talk about kicking somebody when they're vulnerable, right? That is just totally unacceptable. And it's all, so they're throwing all of these bills out. They're throwing, as many laws as you can. And the governor, he actually tweeted, "I want Oklahoma to be the most pro-life state in this country." And
but it's not pro-life.
Yeah, it's like a big virtue signaling, and it's like I can picture them sitting around a table with all the other governors, and they just whip it out and flop it on the table and say, "There's my pro-life cred right there." Right. And I would like to point out that I think a phallic analogy is very appropriate here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So it's like a contest, Oklahoma, oh, we're ahead of Texas, and Texas is like, no, nobody beats Texas. And so it's frustrating in the the focus that they have on that one goal, but it's like they're kind of cavalier about the fact that they're doing it. And it, I don't know, as a father and a husband and a brother and a son, and it just infuriates me. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, I have to agree with so much of that. It's so, one of the most upsetting parts, I think, is the fact that they are willing to exactly what you said, be so cavalier with it and be so blatant about not caring about the ramifications of what they're asking for and pushing for, and maybe violating civil norms and law procedures and gerrymandering. It could be lots of things that they're doing. Richard, as somebody who allegedly is a British citizen, so you are not subject to these laws. Again, alleged. We don't know for sure. Is there a push to control the bodies of people with uteruses in your country by a hardcore right-wing Christian nationalism movement? That might be a leading question, but
in Northern Ireland, I think it's kind of an issue. In the rest of the UK, I think it's funny because actually yesterday I heard something on the radio, and I was only listening in passing, as it was on at work, so I wasn't. It just caught my attention. There are some, I don't remember the percentage, but almost like a large percentage of abortion clinics in the UK are targeted. People with uteruses who are going there to get abortions are targeted. And so it does occur here, but I don't think it's anywhere near it as what it is in the US. And something Cynthia said really struck me. And it was something I wanted to talk about anyway, when she said that these are laws made on emotion. They're not made on science. And, those emotions are usually based on religious ideals. Mm-hmm. The interpretation of old dusty books, usually mistranslated, and usually in the US, the Bible. And I'd like to point out to those, especially who are Christian, who are watching what the Bible actually says on abortion. Because if you do an internet search on what the Bible says on abortion, you'll usually get loads and loads, hundreds of pro-Christian pages telling you that God loves all life and other vague nonsense. It doesn't actually touch on what the Bible specifically says. So if you have a look at Numbers 5:11 to 31, it explicitly tells us. Actually, God specifically tells us that if a man suspects his wife might be pregnant from another man, he can take her to the priest who will administer, and this is a quote, the bitter water that brings a curse, which makes her womb miscarry. So the very God that the US lawmakers are quoting or think is pro-life is explicitly instructs abortion. Explicitly. Learn your fucking Bible.
Cheers to that.
I've been trying to tell people that Richard Gilliver has been telling Christians to learn their fucking Bible since we've been doing things about the fucking Bible, but no one reads the fucking Bible when it's time to actually have these conversations, even though they said this is based on biblical principle, but obviously it's not, because when you read the fucking Bible doesn't tell you that shit. Fuck. Just saying.
It's almost like they latched on to an idea, and not everybody, but it seems like there was just an idea that was floated by somebody standing in some shiny shoes on a stage, and then just God behind it. That was how they finished the whole thing. And then they were just like, yeah, whatever that was. What was being said? I don't know, but I'm with him. Which, okay, I guess that's one way to spend a Sunday, or 10 years actively pushing a project to, again, maybe, kind of flout some of the laws that we have.